Hello, I'm Wes McCauley. I am a director with the Fraser Valley Mountain Bike Association, and I do most of our mapping. And I'm going to show you how to use Gaia GPS to plan a new trail that you may be wishing to establish in your area. Hopefully you have the mapping, GIS, and GPS notes that are supposed to accompany this video. So we are going to be looking at Gaia and Trailforks and some of the other resources that are really helpful when you are planning a new trail. So first of all, we're going to look at Gaia. Gaia is available both on desktop and as an app on your smartphone. So for this process, it would be beneficial for you to have both a desktop computer and the smartphone app available. So first here, let's look at Gaia GPS. So you will be able to log in using your Trailforks account. And once you've done that, what you'll want to do is to go to the Layers menu and go down to Add Map Layers. Go down and find the Topo Maps section and add Gaia Topo in meters. Now, once you've done that, go back to the Layers menu and ensure that the map is being shown to you using meters units. Up on the address bar, you'll see raster meters as the last part of your URL. And then what you can do is zoom out to the appropriate zoom level for the area in which you do most of your trail planning. Once that's done, hit the bookmark button and bookmark Gaia for further use. Now, let's look at the different components of the Gaia interface. Overlays is where you can turn on things like waypoints, routes, and tracks. So keep in mind, routes are trails that you draw in Gaia. So these are proposed trail routes. And then tracks are recordings of an actual hike that you've done with the Gaia app. So when you do a recon, that is a track. So turn off your public tracks and waypoint labels, and then you're good to go. The saved items section is where you can create folders for storing information with regards to a new trail project. So here I have a folder for a new climb trail that I'm proposing for the duck farm area. So inside this folder, I have taken pictures and I've walked a couple of tracks up there, and I have a route that I am proposing for this new climb trail. Now, it's important to avoid private land when you are putting in a new trail. So just to confirm, are there any public lands or private lands rather in the area where I want to put this trail? Get onto the iMapBC web portal. So here we're zoomed in on the area around Vetter Mountain. And what we want to do is to go to the Data Sources tab and go to Add Provincial Layers. Find the land ownership and status and expand it and go down to Parcel Map BC Fabric Cadastra by Owner Type. Expand it and then turn on that layer, PMBC Parcel Cadastra by Owner Type. So what this will do is when you're zoomed in close enough, it will show you the different parcels. So all the yellow polygons are private property, and the blank areas where there are no polygons, that is provincial land. And to determine the others, what you need to do is go to the Home tab and click on the Identify tool. Now, what we are interested in is this property here to the east of the Tempest Ridge development. So I want to bring the climb trail up here from the eastern side of Tempest Ridge. Now, what you folks can see here, this is a covenanted right-of-way that's been added to the Tempest Ridge development for the duck farm loop trail to pass through this private property. So you start down here at Vetter Mountain Road, and you take some switchbacks up, and then you climb up this this access trail, and it dumps you out on the eastern end of the property. So if we want to confirm what the ownership of these different properties are. Here on iMap, we can click on the parcel. I need to pick on the right parcel here, this one here. And it's going to put the parcel ID up in the menu on the left. So when we expand this, it takes us to this particular parcel, and we can find that the owner type is provincial. So this is provincial land, and we know then that we're not in any trouble with private land ownership. Now, if you want to bring this into your Gaia map, it can actually be a really helpful reference. So here, if we zoom into just the area that we need for this trail, so I'm just going to zoom in fairly close here. I'm interested in getting just these properties to bring into Gaia. So now I can choose Export and Provincial Layer Download. And again, just make sure that this particular layer is turned on, and then hit Prepare Order. You need to export in the GeoJSON format, and then everything else will be fine here. Map extent, that's the selection that you want. Clipping should be turned off, and put in your email address and hit the checkbox and hit Submit Order. Within about 2 or 3 minutes, the GIS data, so those different parcels, would be emailed to me inside a zip file. So I need to go inside that zip file and get the GeoJSON file out of it, and then what I would do is import it into Gaia. So I go back to my project, and then on the left I would choose Import Data, and then bring in those polygons for each one of the parcels in the area that I exported from iMap. Now, what you'll end up having is a bunch of those polygons that will list here in your project. Keep in mind, if those end up being here in the main menu and not actually in your project, then you'll be able to hit the check boxes for each one of them, and then you can hit the folder icon up here, and you can organize all of those parcel polygons into your project folder. Now, I did have those polygons in here earlier, just to check it out, but I didn't really need them, so I was able to delete them. So here you can see that I can pick multiple items in the folder here, and I can either move them to a different folder, or I can delete them. Now, when you are trying to find a new route for your trail, there's a few different resources that you have at your disposal. First of all, Trailforks, if you go and look at the same area, here under the layers, we have a slope angle. And based on the legend that you see down at the bottom here, green would be grades of 20% or less, 28, 40, 55, and so on. So based on what we're seeing in Trailforks anyway, you might be tempted to think that the slopes here are actually quite modest. Unfortunately, Trailforks seems to highly underreport the actual slopes of the mountain. And so as a result, I have been looking for other ways to determine what's happening on the ground, and we are using QGIS for that. So QGIS is a free open source GIS tool, and what I'm doing is I am importing LiDAR data from the province of BC. Now, what is LiDAR data? Well, what's happened is that aircraft have overflown significant parts of the province, and a LiDAR scanner shoots millions of laser points down into the ground below, and they pass through the tree top layer down to the ground, bounce back up to the aircraft where they are recorded and turned into what's called a GeoTIFF dataset that will get explained in the separate video. And this shows us in great detail what's on the ground and what its elevation is. So I can actually get a 3D model of areas that have been scanned with LiDAR, And we can see with great detail where different roads have been created, some of them logging roads, other ones created by the Veteran Motorcycle Club, and others that have been hand created. So a lot of detail is being shown here. Now, while this is cool, what's probably even more useful is that we can get the slope of the land shown to us. So here you can see I've got a layer here that I can turn on, which shows the slopes calculated by QGIS based on that LiDAR data, and it's a lot more accurate. And as you can see, the slopes are quite a bit steeper from the LiDAR data set than they are from Trailforks. Now, here I've imported the Vetter Mountain Trails, including the duck farm loop. So there's a duck farm loop right there. I've just selected it. It's turned red. And here you can see that there is an old logging spur road, which is open to this day, that works its way up to the Vetter Mountain Forest Service Road. Now the duck farm loop, which is this red line here, goes in a clockwise direction up the hill, and the grades are really steep. So what I want to do is to build a more family-friendly new mountain biker trail that starts again from the eastern edge of that property, but then works its way up across the mountainside. Now, what the LiDAR data has also shown is that there is an old spur road here underneath the forest cover, and parts of it are probably overgrown. But if we were to clear this existing spur road out, we'd be able to get that trail up and running a lot more quickly than if we had to build a new trail by ourselves. So what I've done in QGIS is I've drawn this green track, which looks like a pretty straightforward way to get up the mountain. But of course we need to walk it and make sure. So this line that I've drawn in QGIS, I have exported over to Gaia so that we can hike it and see about putting a trail somewhere close to this line that I've drawn. All right, so let's go back to Gaia here. And so this green line that you see on my screen is the route that I imported, which I'm going to hike during a recon just to see how possible it would be to put a trail in along those lines. Now, even if you don't have the data from QGIS, you can still draw your own route. So here, I'll just show you here. I'm going to delete this little example I have, and I'm going to go into my folder for my project. And inside here, I'm going to, inside my duck farm folder, create a new route. So to create a new route, you simply just start clicking on the screen. So here, this is roughly about the area where I want to start this climb. So I just click and we'll get a red dot. And now I can start drawing across the screen. Now you folks will notice that here I'm just working on my way to cross over these contours and keeping an eye on the profile that Gaia creates as you add more vertices. So here as I work my way across the screen, I'm going to try and get this trail to turn around. And of course what I want to do is to loop back in here and try and catch that old logging spur road. Now, again, if you didn't know that, what you would just simply do is to draw as best as you could a route that you think makes sense and just draw it across the mountain and then get out there and see what the land is actually like. So here you can see the profile of the land that you've drawn. Now, I'm not sure where Gaia gets its elevations from, the Z values for, each parts of the mountain. But here you can see the trail kind of gets a bit steeper in this area. So maybe what I could do is start looking at dragging some of these big red dots around to try and make the trail a little bit shallower. So I'm not climbing quite as hard. So here you can see what's going on, and maybe rerouting my route a little bit to try and make the trail a bit shallower in terms of climb. If you want to add more vertices along the length of your route, you can put your cursor in between two of the dark red dots, or the darker filled in dots, and you'll see an open dot. Click and drag, and that will add a new vertex to your route. Okay, so once you're done, you can hit save. Now, of course, you can come back and click on this thing at any time. Just scroll on down here, or there it is up at the top, and hit edit, and that will put you back in this mode where you can start dragging some of these dots around to change your proposed route. So I've got this proposed route now. It's here inside my my folder here for my project. And so now it's stored here on Gaia Desktop, and what I want to do now is retrieve it on Gaia GPS so that we can try and walk this route and do a recon and see how feasible that route is, or what a better, more realistic route for this new trail might be. All right, so we're going to move over and look at Gaia GPS on smartphone. Okay, so here's Gaia GPS on a smartphone, and we're going to explain the interface to you. So at the top of the screen here, the button on the left allows Gaia GPS to go full screen. And then the next button, that's with the circle, would take you to your current location. So that's it would follow your actual location in GPS. And then the third button is probably the most important one here. It allows you to record a track. So if you're going to start a hike to do a recon of the area where you're planning to put in a trail route, hit record a track to start recording your hike. As you go along the hike, take pictures. So you can see the take picture option there, second from the bottom, and that will allow you to take pictures of obstacles that you might want to avoid, or features that you want to include, so that you can use that in the planning process for your map. The top right button, of course, that just shows the different map layers here. So of course we're using meters here. That's the units that we want to show. At the bottom of the screen here, we have the saved button. So this is our project folders. Now, when we want to synchronize the work that's been done on Gaia Desktop and get that onto our phone, what you need to do is just click on one of the projects and just press and drag down. And you get that little update spinner at the top of the screen, and you'll see now that we've just updated the data that's here on our phone. So if we go into our project here, we can scroll down and see all of the different data that's included. So here's that new climb that we just created a few moments ago on Gaia Desktop. So if we click on the map for the proposed climb, then we'll be able to look at this thing on our full screen map. So again, click on the map where the track or the route is shown, and choose Show on Main Map from the bottom. So there's our route, which we need to hike. So here on Gaia GPS on my phone, the red line is the one that I created in QGIS, and the red line is the one that I created just moments ago in Gaia Desktop on my computer. So what we would do then is we would record a track as we walk the proposed route and try and figure out where the trail would need to go. So once that's done and the track was recorded, go back to Gaia Desktop back at home and revise the route to match up with your on-site conditions, or maybe to make it follow the track that you recorded, and use that for your final route for the trail. So back on Gaia desktop, what we would do is we would grab that route that we created, and maybe using the track. So you'd have a recording of your track here in Gaia desktop. And then what you could do is take your route and revise it to suit the site conditions that you had. So here, this is our proposed climb. And so maybe what we do is we just modify this to work with the conditions that we found during the recon. Okay, so once we've done that, we could go up and rename it. And save it. So now what we would be able to do is to print this route and send the GPS track for this route to our land manager. So what we would do is we would go over to print map, and there's our new proposed route for this trail. Now, what's really good to do is to provide the GPS coordinates of the trailhead and the trail end, so that can be shown to the land manager as well. So one of the things that you can do is you can use the waypoint button, and you can drag that onto your map and drag it right on top of your track, your route rather. There we go. And I just want to make sure that I am saving this thing here. Okay, scroll down. Oh, no, okay, so I had to hit the waypoint button here, and I'm just going to drag this waypoint onto the beginning of the track. So this is my start. And then I will go back and grab my waypoint tool again here and move that waypoint to the end. Now, you may need to submit the GPS coordinates or the Latin long coordinates for your trail start and end. So grab these coordinates, and then you can just copy them to a clipboard here so that you can also include that in your information to the land manager for getting the trail approved. Okay, so now what we need to do here is to get our new trail and these waypoints together. So I'm going to create a new folder. And what I'm going to do is move these waypoints in there. And so here, those are in there, and then go back to my duck farm example folder here, and take our final climb trail and move that into the same folder. So now, if I go back and click on my duck farm final here, I've got the two waypoints, one for the start and one for the end, all here together in the same folder. So now, when I go to print map, the beginning and the end are shown. Now, what I should do here is just zoom in on this area here, so the scale of it will be more appropriate to the trail's location. All right, so what I'll do here is I'm going to hide the other data. So you can see I've got these eyeball icons here, so I can hide everything except our final trail and its start point and its end point. Okay, so now we can export this map to PDF to give to our land manager. And then what we can do is click on the trail itself, and then go on the bottom, go down here to export, and export this to either a GPX or a KML file. KML is probably slightly more popular. Your land manager will tell you if they want it in a different format. All right, so I hope you found this video helpful. I'll hopefully be able to get out with some of you and work with using Gaia in the field on doing some trail planning. Plus, you folks should have a good look at the QGIS video and see how you can do that slope analysis and get access to LiDAR data for any trails that you are proposing. All right, thanks for watching.